Hello fellow gardeners, welcome back to Smart Garden, where we transform the way you grow. Today we're tackling a question that could revolutionize how you handle your kitchen scraps and nourish your soil. Your food waste is genuinely a valuable resource, but let's be honest, traditional composting can feel like a full-time job. You're managing odors, battling pests, finding space for bins, and constantly turning piles. But what if there was a genuinely revolutionary way to handle kitchen scraps that was both effortlessly simple and incredibly beneficial for your plants? Today we're diving deep into direct soil burying to uncover whether this truly is the ultimate low-effort solution, or simply a worm farmer's dream come true. Let's get into it. There's something deeply appealing about direct soil burying that goes beyond just laziness, though there's nothing wrong with gardening smarter, not harder. The immediate appeal lies in its radical simplicity. You don't need special equipment, expensive bins, or complicated systems. You need only a shovel, a garden space, and your organic waste. This is gardening stripped down to its essentials, and for many of us, that's incredibly liberating. Let's address the real frustrations that plague traditional composting. If you've ever maintained a compost bin, you know the challenges well. There's the persistent odor that can turn neighbors into critics and make even dedicated gardeners question their life choices. Then come the pests, rats, raccoons, flies, and beetles that treat your compost pile like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Space constraints plague urban gardeners and those with smaller properties, making conventional composting feel like an impossible dream. And don't even get me started on the constant turning, monitoring, and maintenance required to keep a compost pile functioning properly. Direct soil burying eliminates virtually all of these headaches. This method offers a tantalizing promise. What if you could recycle your food waste, enrich your soil, and feed your plants all without the complications? Now that we've established the appeal, let's talk specifics. The success of direct soil burying depends heavily on understanding what goes into the ground and what stays out. This is where many well-intentioned gardeners stumble, so pay close attention. First, let's establish your what not to bury list. Meat, fish, and bone should absolutely stay out of your burial holes because they attract persistent pests like rats and raccoons, and the smell during decomposition can become genuinely unpleasant. Dairy products, cheese, milk, yogurt, butter, decompose slowly in anaerobic conditions and create terrible odors while attracting unwanted visitors. Oily foods and cooking grease break down extremely slowly and can actually repel water from reaching your plant roots, defeating your entire purpose. Diseased plants and weeds with established seeds are also no-go zones. You're essentially spreading problems throughout your garden. Stick to fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, crushed eggshells, and similar plant-based materials for the cleanest, most effective process. The optimal burying depth cannot be overstated. It's the difference between a thriving system and a neighborhood nuisance. Aim for 12 to 18 inches deep, ideally even deeper if you're burying meat alternatives or anything that generates odor concerns. This depth is crucial because it places your organic material below the immediate soil surface where beneficial microorganisms can work in an oxygen-limited environment while keeping odors contained below ground. Location matters equally. Choose spots where you'll eventually plant, or in established beds around perennials and shrubs. Avoid burying directly where you plan to plant for at least 3 to 4 months. The decomposing material needs time to break down and stabilize before tender plant roots contact it directly. Here's something many people overlook: the necessity of balancing brown materials with your green food scraps. Yes, you can bury kitchen waste directly, but integrating shredded leaves, straw, or cardboard creates a more balanced decomposition process. This brown-to-green ratio helps regulate moisture, accelerates microbial activity, and prevents anaerobic conditions from becoming overly stagnant. A simple approach is layering. Add your food scraps, then cover with 8 inches of soil mixed with brown materials, then repeat. This creates mini compost chambers distributed throughout your garden. Understanding the magic beneath your feet transforms how you view this entire process. When you bury organic material, you're not just throwing away waste, you're activating an entire civilization of decomposers that live in your soil. The unsung heroes of direct burying are earthworms, bacteria, fungi, and countless microorganisms that most gardeners never see but absolutely depend upon. Earthworms are particularly remarkable. They tunnel through the soil, consume decomposing organic matter, and produce nutrient-rich castings that are essentially concentrated plant food. As they work, they create pathways through the soil that improve aeration and drainage. Bacteria and fungi break down complex organic compounds into simpler forms that plant roots can actually utilize. It's genuinely a miraculous process when you consider it. Visualizing this breakdown helps you understand the timeline and expectations. When you bury food scraps, initial decomposition happens relatively quickly as bacteria and fungi colonize the fresh material. Over weeks and months, this community transforms the scraps into humus, dark, stable organic matter that becomes part of your soil's permanent structure. Meanwhile, worms gradually consume and process this material, producing castings that directly enhance soil structure and nutrient availability. This process is slower than a hot, well-managed aerobic compost pile, which might finish in 2 to 3 months. Direct burying typically requires 4 to 6 months for complete decomposition, depending on climate, soil temperature, and material composition. However, the speed disadvantage comes with a significant advantage. This method retains more nitrogen in the soil. Traditional composting can lose substantial nitrogen through gas emissions during the heating and decomposition process, whereas anaerobic soil decomposition keeps those nutrients where they belong, in your garden. The advantages of direct soil burying extend far beyond simply disposing of waste. You're actually engineering long-term improvements to your soil's fundamental structure and health. When buried organics decompose in place, they create air pockets and channels throughout your soil matrix. This dramatically improves soil structure, making it lighter, fluffier, and more workable. Better soil structure means improved drainage in heavy clay soils and enhanced water retention in sandy soils. Essentially, direct burying helps normalize your soil regardless of its starting point. The organic matter acts like a sponge, helping soil hold moisture during dry periods while preventing waterlogging during heavy rains. Beyond structure, you're cultivating an explosion of soil biodiversity. That buried food scrap becomes a feeding station for earthworms, insects, nematodes, and microorganisms. This thriving microecosystem creates conditions where beneficial organisms thrive and problematic ones struggle. Healthier soil biology translates directly into healthier plants that can better resist diseases and pests naturally. Your plants develop stronger root systems, absorb nutrients more efficiently, and generally demonstrate greater resilience. The slow-release fertilizer effect is perhaps the most pragmatic benefit. Unlike traditional fertilization where you apply nutrients at specific times, direct burying creates continuous nutrient delivery throughout the growing season. As decomposition progresses, plant roots have access to a steady stream of available nutrients. This creates healthier, more resilient plants that don't experience the stress of nutrient fluctuations. It's genuinely gardening in harmony with natural processes rather than against them. So, here's the honest truth. Direct soil burying isn't necessarily better or worse than traditional composting. It's different, and the differences matter depending on your specific situation and goals. The genuine advantages are undeniable. You need no equipment, minimal maintenance, and virtually no odor or pest problems when done correctly. It's extraordinarily accessible for beginners, and incredibly effective for experienced gardeners seeking to streamline their operations. The nutrient retention is genuinely impressive, and the long-term soil improvement is substantial. If you have limited space, this method is clearly superior to maintaining composting infrastructure. If you're managing an urban garden or a small yard, direct burying might be your game changer. However, direct burying shines brightest in specific scenarios. It works wonderfully if you have garden space to rotate burial locations annually. It's ideal if you're primarily dealing with plant-based food scraps and can commit to avoiding problematic materials. It's perfect if you're willing to wait several months before planting in burial areas. It's exceptional if building soil biology and long-term improvement matter more to you than quick fertilization. The real wisdom lies in recognizing that these methods complement each other beautifully. Many successful gardeners use both approaches. Direct burying handles food scraps while simultaneously enriching specific garden areas, while traditional composting processes larger volumes of organic material more quickly for immediate nutrient needs. Some gardeners bury in certain areas while maintaining a compost bin for others, creating a synergistic system that addresses various gardening needs. My encouragement to you is simple. Experiment. Try direct soil burying in one section of your garden while maintaining your existing practices elsewhere. Monitor what happens over several months. Observe how your soil improves, how your plants respond, and how worm populations flourish. Let your own garden experience guide whether this becomes a cornerstone of your gardening practice or simply another tool in your sustainable gardening toolkit. If you found this guide valuable, I'd love for you to subscribe to Smart Garden and join our growing community of gardeners committed to smarter, more sustainable practices. Share this video with fellow gardeners who might be struggling with traditional composting. Together we're building gardens that work with nature rather than against it. Happy gardening, everyone!